What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. This video I want to discuss if Prototype 2020, if a prototype something, whether it be a remaster, a remake, or a new game, is actually possible. And here's the deal. Here's why I want to start this off really quickly. I know I've started to get like an established base of people to watch these prototype videos. One thing to note right off the bat is I don't make especially these kind of videos specifically to fake hype you guys up or to say something or, to mislead you, anything like that. Everything and anything I say in any of these videos, I am fully in support of, right? I believe what I'm saying. So if you guys feel like I'm trying to fool you, well, then I'm also fooling myself without even knowing it, okay? I just wanted to kind of get that out there before I started this video. And here's the deal. To be honest with you, I didn't even think of this possibility. I made a video, I can't even remember if it was on this channel or on my second channel, a Podcast Now PS Edition, which I will leave a link in the description below for you guys to check it out, talk exclusively about games. In one of those channels, over the past couple days, I talked about how Bobby Kotick of Activision had recently said, like, 2020, we were going to get more announcements for remakes, for those kind of things, for established properties, and also in those established properties, it would also be a time where we could get possibly brand new things in them. Now, the first thing that I jumped on with that, and again, it's on one of these channels, is Crash. I think it's on Podcast Now. I made a video about Crash Bandicoot that I think that no matter what, this is a year where we get the announcement, maybe not the actual game, but at least an announcement of either another remake, maybe Crash Bash, or a brand new Crash game. A brand new Crash game being the more likely. One thing I didn't even, and there's other games, right? Spyro will probably get like an actual brand new game. Call of Duty, it's always possible they go back and maybe they remake some of the older Call of Duty games. One thing that never even crossed my mind is like, oh God, Prototype is an act. And actually, this didn't even spring on me until I think it was like an IGN Instagram post where they had like, which game would you like to see like them remake or remaster or like have a new one of? And they had like 5 pictures, and Prototype was the middle one. I was like, oh my dear God, I didn't even think of that. So that's my basic question for you guys is, and the basic topic of this video is like, because, over the past couple of videos, I've made now a handful of Prototype videos, and I love every single one I'm making. I truly love making these videos, and I'm going to be making more. Every time, or a couple times in the past, I've said like, hey, is 2020 a possibility? Could we get a remake? Could we get a Prototype 3? And a lot of them are like, okay, they're pipe dreams. In order for it to happen, obviously you would need to find a brand new studio to do it. And then is the property even popular enough to do it, right? Because it's been a long time, and neither of the two games are really, I mean, again, like I've said in past videos, Prototype 1 I think is a very special game. To me, I like a lot of it. I think overall it's a solid game. I think in the grand scheme of things it has a ton of problems, and then Prototype 2 I think is severely flawed. I think the grab with Prototype has always been the potential of what it could be rather than the products we've actually gotten. But still, I mean, we all really, really love the franchise, right? And we would want more of them, but it's a hard task. And I think when you think of even that statement, and the statement was, again, like, this is a year where we're going to get more announcements of remakes. Hey, they're going to eventually run out of games to remake. I mean, at some point in our lifetime, they would run out of games, and Prototype is sitting there. And the difference, and we've talked about it again, like, if you remake it, it doesn't have to be, because obviously Radical Entertainment's gone, so you can't use them to do it because they're no longer around. But if you remake something, you do not need the original makers of the game to be there. In my personal opinion, I would like, if there's a Prototype 3, like, let's say, right, I would prefer the people that had something to do with 1 and 2 were to make 3. However, even with Prototype, that's debatable because I don't like their main decision-making of the franchise as a whole. I'm not even a big fan of it. So, to be honest with you, if there's a Prototype 3, I may actually prefer a brand new studio to come in and say, okay, well, we kind of know what they were trying to do with 1 and 2, but let's take that and let's kind of go off on our own and do what we would imagine a Prototype 3 would be. That's what I would kind of prefer, and a remake is even easier because, again, we've seen it over the last several years. There's studios that specialize specifically in just making remakes, right? Just taking a property and upping it for current generation or whatever. So I think Prototype is definitely in there. We've talked about in the past, Prototype is not gone to them. They still recognize it as a franchise. They at least ported it to the current gen. They didn't do anything with it. It's not remade. It's not a remaster. It's not anything, but they at least ported it over. So, I mean, it sold okay. I keep going back to that because at a certain point, you can talk about, all right, well, if they get a new studio, all they have to do is remake it, and like it is a property of theirs, and if this is going to be a big year for more remakes, like it's possible, but then you have to again circle around to the stuff that we keep talking about of like, but is it worth it? Like looking at it from their perspective, even a remake, because again, we've talked about remakes, right? And I know a lot of people would want Prototype 3. Again, like I've said, I think you need to have a remake, you need to have a remaster or a collection or something just to have that pulse test on people to say, hey, do people still want this before we get a Prototype 3? I don't think it's impossible, but I think we need to kind of replay what we've already played first, sadly. And I don't necessarily even like that. I don't want to have to rebuy again Prototype 1 and 2, right? I don't even know how much I'd actually play them. But I think we're at that point in order to get a Prototype 3. But again, it's like, well, is it even worth the work in general, assembling a team or handing it off to a team that could be doing something else or whatever to remake a game like Prototype and Prototype 2? Again, I think doing it, though, would actually be pretty solid because, as we've seen from these remakes, they definitely enhance the base game. Very rarely have we seen one of these remakes over the last 2, 3, 4 years make the original experience worse, right? And again, I'm not saying it's a terrible starting product, Prototype 1 and 2, but it's a severely flawed one, and even if they fix it just a little, just tweak it a little bit, for a remake, I think that would actually go a very long way because at least then we would have a slightly superior product to go ahead with, right? Even if we don't get the final game in the trilogy, at least we kind of get to replay the ones that we have fond memories of maybe, but again, maybe they're not the most perfect games in the world. At least we get to kind of replay them, but in a much, much improved state. So I think it's possible. And again, I kind of want to just make this video because it's like we've talked about it, and it's kind of been a pipe dream. It's kind of been something like, well, there's a lot of hurdles that have to go through. I don't know. Like, is it? And without any information, nobody's really said anything about it, all this kind of stuff. It's a long shot. It's a very far shot to have this happen. But now, again, it's not the most to go off of. And I think a lot of people, again, when you read that quote, even me specifically, a person who's made Prototype videos, they've done very well. You guys seem to enjoy them. Even me, who is in this Prototype headspace, the first thing I jumped to was Crash. And then I jumped to Spyro, and then I jumped to Call of Duty. So Prototype would have been fourth. And I honestly don't even know if I would have thought about it if I didn't see IGN's post. So it's a situation where it's like, well, it is possible, but even if you're just like just a normal person reading that quote or thinking about Activision's plan in general going forward in 2020, I don't really think you think of Prototype. Still, though, again, like going back to the base idea, it's more than we had. It's at least a promise, basically, by their CEO that, like, hey, we're going to have a lot of, like, there's going to be some announcements. We're going to have remakes. And also, these properties that we've kind of toyed with, we could possibly do brand new things with. So, I guess what we're hoping for, here's what we're hoping for. We're hoping for the second part of it, the whole, like, the properties we've already kind of dealt with, like, we want to do new things with. We're hoping that means a Spyro and a Crash brand new game, not a remake. Not even, honestly, and I do want it like a Crash Bash remake, but if you're in the Prototype camp that you want to see something, I think that we're kind of rooting for just a brand new Spyro and just a brand new Crash, no more remakes, because that takes them completely off the table, and you have to still fill that quote when he said, like, we're going to do more remakes. Then the only thing that I can really think of, again, the first thing that jumps to my head is Call of Duty. I think we're probably going to get some Call of Duty remakes at some point, but that's really, again, maybe I'm sure I am missing, there's tons of Activision games in general, but ones that jump off the page to me, Call of Duty is that first one. So, hey, it's very like, imagine a year where we get an announcement of a brand new Spyro, brand new Crash, a remake of a Call of Duty, and the remake of the Prototype like collection. I think that would be, one, a phenomenal year for Activision, and two, I mean, for a gamer, that's really, really exciting, right? Because honestly, I feel like I would get all four of them. I don't even love the Call of Duty games all that much, but remake, I mean, I would definitely sign up for that. So I think it's possible. I think at the very, very least, at this point of time, it at least is a possibility that this could happen. Is it likely? I'd say still not necessarily. I'd still say it's probably less likely than it is likely that we would get it. But I think it's looking better than, like, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, hey, Alex, do you reasonably think like we could get at least an announcement of a prototype in 2020. In fact, we talked about that, right? And I said maybe towards the end of the year with next generation, but like maybe 2021 is that year. Well, now looking at it, it is more likely now than it was then that it could be something that we hear about in 2020. It would probably be a smaller thing, right? Because its prototype is not the biggest thing in the world, but to us, it would be pretty darn special, right? So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think it's actually possible we do get a prototype remake in 2020? Let me know. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And thank you, as always, for watching. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. You guys truly rock and have done such an amazing job supporting these prototype videos. So keep it up. We will have more prototype videos. Every couple weeks, I like to have a new one. Suggestions are always welcome. I'd love to do videos that you guys have asked me to do. I think there were some suggestions in the last video. I'll be getting to those as well. So anything you guys want me to talk about prototype related, let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.